Welcome back, and we just added some on trigger enter code that will set the game object to false if it has the pickup tag. And I have a feeling that we're going to mess with the prefab instead of the individual objects, and so that they'll all have the pickup tag. So let's see if that's the case here.
Let's save this script and return to Unity and check for errors. The first thing we need to do is set up the tag value for the pickup objects.
I see. I think he's going to prefabs. Prefab. Control S. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong here. And
select the prefab asset for the pickup object. When we look at the tag list, we don't see any tag called pickup, so we need to add one. Select Add Tag. And this brings up the tags and layers.
all right. So pickup prefab. That's not what he did, though, is it?
Panel. Here we can customize tags and
layers.
layers.
Just a sec.
Tags and layers object. The first thing we need to do is set up the tag value for the pickup objects. Select the prefab asset for the pickup object. When we look at the tag list, we don't see any tag called pickup, so we need to add.
See, what gets me though is pickup. What happens if I open... Do I open prefab? See, I don't know if he did he open it? Dang, I'm wasting time here, but I gotta check this out.
Add one. Select, when we look at the tag list, Unity, and check for errors. The first thing we need to do is set up the tag value for the pickup objects. Select the prefab asset for the pickup object. When we look at the tag list, we don't...
Huh. Alright, so what if I actually open prefab? See, and see the way it is? It looks like he already had his prefab open, and maybe older versions of Unity opened it, so I don't know. But okay, so
don't see any tag called pickup, so we need to add one. Select Add Tag. And this brings up the Tags and Layers panel. Here we can customize tags and layers. Note that this tags list is empty. To create a new custom tag, select the plus button to add a new row to the tags list. In the new empty element, in our case tag 0, type pickup. And this is case sensitive and needs to be exactly the same string that we have in our script. If in doubt, we can copy and paste this string to get the exact value. When we look back at the prefab asset, note that the asset is still untagged. By selecting Add Tag, we changed our focus from the prefab asset to the tag manager. And in the tag manager, we created our tag. Now we need to apply that tag to the prefab asset.
alright. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be doing, like, well, let's go to pick, let's open this up. Let's go to untagged, let's go to add tag, let's add it, let's call it pick up, save, okay. Alright. Well, let's follow the bread. No, I see, that's back into the game. Okay, let's click on pickup again. Let's open this again. And I think I'll be doing this. And if I save the prefab, see, I'm not sure if they need to be like separate. Maybe they all need to be separate. I don't know. But let's see here what he does.
Select the tag drop-down again, and see how we now have pickup in the list. Select this tag from the list, and the asset is now tagged pickup. And, with the power of prefabs, all of the instances are now tagged pickup as well.
Okay.
Now let's test our game. Save the scene and enter play mode.
Okay, so let's go ahead and save it. But not only do I need to save that, now I need to go back into the actual scenes here, and these all have pickups on it. So let's go ahead and do let's actually maximize on play here. And let's test this sucker. Oh. Well. Apparently, that didn't help anything. Either that or I didn't save the script when I messed with the script last. So let's check out the script. Let's make sure it's saved. Let's go back into Unity. Okay. Okay, so let's see if his does the same thing. If not, then I've done something wrong.
Okay. Our tag is set to pickup, but we are still bouncing off the pickup cubes just like we are bouncing off the walls. So let's exit play mode. Before we discuss why we are bouncing off the pickup cubes rather than picking them up, we need to have a brief discussion about Unity's physics system. I'm going to enter play mode for this discussion. Let's look at one of our cubes and our player. As an aside, we can select 2 or more game objects at the same time and inspect them all. We do this by holding down the command key on the Mac or the control key on the PC and selecting the game objects. When we select multiple game objects, note how the inspector changes to show the common components and property values of the selected game objects. The inspector also allows for multi-object editing. Using multi-object editing, I'm going to disable the mesh renderer on both the player sphere and the selected cube with a single click. This leaves us with the 2 green outlines of the collider volumes for these 2 objects. How do collisions work in Unity's physics engine? The physics engine does not allow 2 collider volumes to overlap. When the physics engine detects that any 2 or more colliders will overlap that frame, the physics engine will look at the objects and analyze their speed and rotation and shape, and calculate a collision. One of the major factors in this calculation is whether the colliders are static or dynamic. Static colliders are usually non-moving parts of your scene, like the walls, the floor, or the fountain in the courtyard. Dynamic colliders are things that move, like the player's sphere or a car. When calculating a collision, the static geometry will not be affected by the collision, but the dynamic objects will be. In our case, the player's sphere is dynamic or moving geometry, and it is bouncing off the static geometry of the cubes, just as it bounces off the static geometry of the walls. The physics engine can, however, allow the penetration or overlap of collider volumes. When it does this, the physics engine still calculates the collider volumes and keeps track of the collider overlap, but it doesn't physically act on the overlapping objects. It doesn't cause a collision. We do this by making our colliders into triggers or trigger colliders. When we make our colliders into a trigger or trigger collider, we can detect the contact with that trigger through the on-trigger event messages. When a collider is a trigger, you can do clever things like place a trigger in the middle of a doorway in, say, an adventure game. And when the player enters the trigger, the minimap updates and a message plays, "You have discovered this room." Or every time your player walks around that corner, spiders drop from the ceiling, because the player has walked through a trigger. For more information on collision and on-trigger messages, see the lessons linked below. We are using on-trigger enter in our code rather than on-collision enter, so we need to change our collider volumes into trigger volumes. To do this, we must be out of play mode. Let's select the prefab asset and look at the box collider component. Here we select is trigger, and again, the power of prefabs. All of our pickup objects are now using trigger colliders. Let's save our scene, enter play mode, and test. And as our player enters the trigger, we pick up the objects. Excellent. Let's exit.
Okay, so I need to do that now. So let's go ahead and open the prefab. Let's just do it from here. Open prefab. And is trigger. Now we save it. And then we go back to the scene. And we hit play mode. Here I'm going to do maximize again. And see what we got here. Check that out. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. Check it out. Ooh, neat. I don't want to waste too much time though, because I'm not, you know. Anyways. Pause. Or actually, I don't want to pause. I want to stop it. Okay. So that's good. That everything's cool. It's cool. Let's
Exit play mode. Everything looks great. We only have one issue. We have made one small mistake, and this is related to how Unity optimizes its physics. As a performance optimization, Unity calculates all the volumes of all the static colliders in a scene and holds this information in a cache. This makes sense as static colliders shouldn't move, and this saves recalculating this information every frame. Where we have made our mistake is by rotating our cubes. Anytime we move, rotate, or scale a static collider, Unity will recalculate all the static colliders again and update the static collider cache. To recalculate the cache takes resources. We can move, rotate, or scale dynamic colliders as often as we want, and Unity won't recache any collider volumes. Unity expects us to move colliders. We simply need to indicate to Unity which colliders are dynamic before we move them. We do this by using the rigid body component. Any game object with a collider and a rigid body is considered dynamic. Any game object with a collider attached but no physics rigid body is expected to be static. Currently, our pickup game objects have a box collider, but no rigid body, so Unity is recalculating our static collider cache every frame. The solution is to add a rigid body to the pickup objects. This will move the cubes from being static colliders to being dynamic colliders. Let's save and play. And our cubes fall through the floor. Gravity pulls them down, and as they are triggers, they don't collide with the floor. Let's exit play mode. If we look at the rigid body component, we could simply disable use gravity, which would prevent the cubes from being pulled downwards. This is only a partial solution, however. If we did this, even though our cubes would not respond to gravity, they would still respond to physics forces. There is a better solution, and that is to select is kinematic. When we do this, we set this rigid body component to be a kinematic rigid body. A kinematic rigid body will not react to physics forces, and it can be animated and moved by its transform. This is great for everything from objects with colliders, like elevators and moving platforms, to objects with triggers, like our collectibles, that need to be animated or moved by their transform. For more information on the rigid body and is kinematic, see the lessons linked below. Let's save our scene and enter play mode to test. Now our behavior is identical and performant. So, static colliders shouldn't move, like walls and floors. Dynamic colliders can move, and have a rigid body attached. Standard rigid bodies are moved using physics forces. Kinematic rigid bodies are moved using their transform. In the next assignment, we will count our collectible objects and make a simple UI to display our score and messages.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the counter here. And I'm going to go ahead and come out of full screen. Whoops. That's mturk and all that stuff, which I need to still do some more of today. Unity, let's bring the, wait, there, this is what I want to do. I want to shrink this back down. I want to go back in here. I want to go back to the pickup prefab. I want to add component, a rigid body, right? And then I want to say is kinematic, and then I want to save it, and then I want to go back to the game, and we will go ahead and play, and it should be still work fine like normal, but like I said, it's performant or whatever. Okay, so everything looks cool and everything works cool, and that's cool and everything's cool. And so thanks for watching, and I will see you in a bit.